So I've been watching some YouTube videos on coercive control and psychological and mental abuse. I'm driving right now kind of on a windy road, so anyway. My name is Wendy Woods, and I never thought that I would be reaching out to YouTube or the internet really for advice or support or anything like that. And I have found some amazing information on YouTube from psychiatrists and testimonials, other people talking about their experience with domestic violence and emotional abuse and coercive control, and I thought that partly it would be healing for me to get my story out there, maybe get some feedback as well on my situation. So it's an onion. It's a layer of not only domestic violence while I was in a relationship with my son's father. I have a 6-year-old son currently who is amazing. That my abuser was able to manipulate the system and myself and gain full custody, and really there was abuse in the relationship. It was kind of a short-lived relationship. I think we're only together maybe 2 years and I got pregnant very soon. I met him in 2012, June of 2012, and I was pregnant and moved in with him by September and October of 2012. My son was born June 17th of 2013. I also have a daughter from my first husband, who is 17 now. She was 9.5 at the time when I met my son's dad. And I was very naive. I was very sheltered. I grew up in a Christian home. I grew up in a bubble. I didn't really see an ugly side, of life. And I never in a million years would have thought that I would be in a situation of domestic violence. And so there were things in my son's dad and mine relationship, looking back, I see red flags that came up that I ignored because, it was, my second relationship. I had a child with this person. I didn't know this person. When I met him, I took him at face value. I believed him. And he pretty much, he saw a naive, trusting single mom, which allowed him to maintain an image, which I call the white picket fence syndrome, to where, it made him look good, but yet he had one foot in one, side of life, and then, he still had his foot in his, convict, criminal, manipulative type world. And the interesting thing, it's taken me 5, almost 6 years to unravel and detangle and the mess that's been in my head. And it's like when you're untangling a long extension cord, or when you're trying to detangle your hair or something. You think you're starting to work through some of the knots, only to find that there's more knots, or that there's, a bigger tangle in the middle, and you think you're making progress, and, you're detangling this, and there's just more and more and more that you don't realize. And that's kind of what I'm experiencing right now. He was physical a couple times, and I really kind of pushed it aside a little bit, and I guess I didn't want to admit that these things are happening. And I guess in a way I wanted to portray kind of a white picket fence, like to my family and my friends. And I was pregnant, and we moved into a house together, and I decorated and bought new dishes and painted my daughter's room pink, and bought baby clothes, and it looked like we were just the cute, little blended family. And I noticed things when I was pregnant with him. And then 2 weeks after I had my son, while I'm nursing him in the living room, and he came home from work and was just pissed off and threw a bottle of Gatorade across the living room. And I had, holding my son, nursing, sitting on the couch, and my daughter sitting on the opposite love seat doing homework, and we're just sitting there. And he got pissed. He got pissed, like jealous that I was at home with my son and my daughter. I just had a baby 2 weeks ago, and or at the time, and like slow motion, the Gatorade bottle like just flew past my daughter, and it's almost like she didn't even really flinch. She just kind of looked up and was like, what? And I should have left then. I didn't, because I just had this baby, I have this house, and I was, I think, more in shock, postpartum, whatever. And there's a couple other incidences that I just kind of ignored. And, I kept thinking, this isn't happening. No, he's not doing this. It's getting better. It'll get better. And making excuses for him. And one thing that I recently discovered in my almost 6 years of researching abuse and patterns of abuse, and really feeling like I was going crazy in my head, which is how he did make me feel. And I started second guessing myself. I started not trusting anyone. I started thinking that I was going crazy. I started thinking that I had the problem, that I wasn't worthy, I wasn't good enough. I don't know how I got to that point. It was very slow. It was very subtle. It was, it was like a drip. It was, like a leaky faucet that just got worse and worse over time. And his manipulation and his ways of doing things and the tactics that he used, and that he continued to use, even after we separated, which that's when I really started to dig and do research, and because I couldn't understand what was happening. I couldn't understand why I was having these feelings. I couldn't understand, my lack of confidence. I couldn't understand, why this person that I loved, that I had a child with, would be doing this to me. I didn't get it. I didn't understand. And not too long ago, I came across, just on the internet, you look up one thing and it leads to another, of coercive control. And coercive control is so subtle. It leaves no physical marks or scars. It's undetectable by judges, by law enforcement, by therapists, by friends and family. And it is so subtle that it's so scary. But once you figure it out, and once you see the patterns and you see the tactics used, it really, when he would, and still, when he tries to use my son against me, or to punish me, or, hurt me, because I'm not conforming to him, because I'm not listening to him, because I am not doing what he says. And nobody deserves to live in fear. Nobody deserves to wake up every morning and feel like they're in a prison cell when they're not, when they're in their own bed. I started getting anxiety. I started getting depression. I couldn't work. I was a gymnastics coach. It was my passion. It was my first job. I started coaching gymnastics at 14. And it was what I loved to do. And I found that I had no joy in that even. That I woke up every morning with this deep, sick dread in the pit of my stomach and in my heart, and almost like, what have I done? What have I done? If I didn't have a child with this person, I think it would be easier. Well, of course, I know it would be easier to not deal with him. I could close the door. They say with, abusers like this, no contact. But what do you do when they have your child, when they have your flesh and blood, and there's nothing you can do, and you have been left with no job, no car, no place to live? And looking back, I see how he basically annihilated me. My daughter went to go live with her dad, and it was just sad. I lost everything. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'll be back.